Oh boy, hello everybody, welcome back to Wireheads. It is episode 30, that is 30 episodes. God damn, I'm beginning to feel old by the number of Wireheads episodes we've done at this point. It's crazy. Once again, my name is Emmerron. I am a pro GM over on StartPlaying, as well as a content creator here on Twitch and YouTube. We just wrapped up Neon Inferno this Monday for Season 2. Season 3 is going to come sometime this spring. Stay tuned. And joining me, of course, as always, is my co-host.
Hello, everybody. I am Diamond Dust. I am a net running VTuber on the internet. If you came over from my half of the episode, welcome. I'm also a professional GM and do Cyberpunk content. And on my half of the episode, we had talked about bosses. And actually, Emmerron has a way to bridge the last subject into this one.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and love take him away. But if you missed the first half, click on the link below and you'll be able to catch it.
Yep, it's going to be listed below in the description. It always is, unless there's been some weird desync between me and Diamond editing our episodes, in which case, every now and then that happens. It'll be there probably in a few hours at most. So let's talk about what my topic for today is. So you might be able to see, down there in the topic box that we're talking about high level play. So the first thing I have to do for you, as always, here is define what the hell do I mean by that. So when we talk about high level in Cyberpunk, it's a little different than things like D&D where we run by like hard levels, right? In D&D, you have a very specific like level range. I think most DMs would agree that it's probably like level 12 or 13 to level 20 is when you hit that kind of high level play, and it gets more locked in the closer to 20 you get at that point. In Cyberpunk, this is harder to lock down because there's a couple of ways to gain power. There's a lot more horizontal progression in Cyberpunk than there is in other games, in my opinion. Because you can level your skills, you can increase the quality of your equipment, you can raise your role rank. All of these are tools that make you more powerful in not super equal ways, right? Like sometimes you'll one role's rank up will give them a whole different perspective on power. Like netrunners, I think, are like this, where like you step up your power, a role rank, and it's like all of a sudden you feel like a god in networks that would have given you some trouble just one rank earlier. And on the flip of that, you have something like Nomad or MedTech, where that one rank up, that gives you another tool, but unless you're making the best use of those tools or making good choices, you're not going to feel that massive jump in power. It's not going to spike quite as hard. And that's okay, because that's why we can also put stuff into skills. So that's where like your weapon skills coming up, you're going to feel a lot better because you're hitting more of your shots, or like your social skills, you're able to convince more people. So again, it gets a little tricky, but generally my guideline for high level play is everyone in your party is now hardened, and your role ranks or skill bases are beginning to exceed, with like 3 or more of those things are now exceeding the maximums at character creation, right? So we're talking, you've got at least 3 base 15 skills or a base 5 role rank. And this applies to everyone in your party, right? Everyone in the party has invested enough skill points that you have multiple skills that are above rank 14, or base 14 rather. Your role ranks are all rank 5 or better for the most part, or you have a second role raised to at least rank 2. That's another way to look at it. In addition, you each have greater than, I want to say, 5,000 or 6,000 eddies worth of equipment. Generally, once you hit that point, we're beginning to leave kind of that mid-game-ish area where you're kind of still building power. We start referring to some of these moments once you hit this level as kind of full build, right? Like anything that you get in that range, you're going to start feeling like you have a pretty complete picture of what your character is capable of, what you've designed them to be capable of, and this becomes their kind of apex form, right? And sure, there's always something you can do to improve them. You could get them in an FBC, you could get some better equipment or cyberware beyond what you already have. But in general, once you've hit about that $6,000 mark in terms of your character's total equipment value, you're pretty well up there, I would say, at this point. As far as this goes, and I will say, Professor Roswin, I just saw you come in. Welcome. We will talk a little bit about the beat chart here. I will say beat charts largely don't look that different in high level play. What is different is what you're putting them in content wise. And we'll talk about why that is in a sec. So Diamond, when you get to high level play, first of all, do you disagree with my general definition I've just given for high level play? Do you use a different one or different from me in any way there?
I feel that's like pretty close to the same parameters I use. Some of the other things that I look at when we look at high level play is I also look at like each role's like primary like their core skill bases to see like where they're at. So like looking at a group, the solo is, sure, the solo might be rank 4, but they have a base, 16 in shoulder arms, and followed up with like a base 12 or base 14 in auto fire or something like that. So you have that. But then, you look at the solo. Of course, you're gonna have a murder machine on hand. Oh, okay, on hand. That solos are meant to, be the heavy hitter of the crew.
There's a reason that solos at rank 4 already considered hardened. Like that is just you are hardened as a solo at that level.
And same goes for lawmen. Or like any of the combat members, like lawmen, nomads. Solos, who else would I lump in there with the combat bunch? Who like when we were talking about the roles, I think
Lawman, Solo, and Nomad are the three that I put in that, because Nomads have a ton with their vehicles and they can get weapon upgrades that really put them in that range.
But then also with that inclusion with Nomads being able to drive really, really well.
Yeah.
Fixers, medias, rocker boys, if your social skills are kind of hitting that high end point, or you are more or less you are usually passing the social skill checks. And I look in like, that checks out, that your your skills are high enough, whether it be the fixer's trading skill or the media's persuasion capabilities, or the rocker boy's bribe, perhaps. That's gonna check out. It's like, okay, that means we're kind of hitting high level. Techs. I mean, tech is kind of a hard one for me to really like point at and see, like when it comes to the skill bases, like where it's at, until we start figuring out what kind of jobs they are capable of doing comfortably.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, netrunners. Netrunners are kind of a weird one, where that is the one that I would classify specifically against role, because of netrunners don't rely on their skills for their interface capability. That would be like their role plus what gear they got on hand. Yeah,
like I would say that netrunners, for what their role is built to do, it bases far harder on their role rank, because like. If you have a role rank 7 netrunner, they're a god. Like, I don't care. Like, unless you have a netrunner in the net that is even close to their rank, they are going to stomp them. Like, full send, they're going to stomp them. Unless they're somehow really fragile, or they've got a really bad, like, situation on their hands in terms of black ice and stuff. Like, you have to get incredibly constructive with the way your network synergizes to try and kill a level 7 netrunner or rank 7 netrunner. It's just it's not even close. Like I threw everything I had against Nyla as a rank 7 netrunner, and like I almost had him, but it took him diving into the deep net and dealing with literal rabbits to try and kill him,
which are classified as rank 10 netrunners basically.
Kind of. They had 10, basically 10s on all of their stats, but that was, they didn't have the net actions because I didn't consider them net runners. I considered them to be black ice, essentially.
Okay.
But yeah, bottom line is I had him down to 5 HP, but it took all that and a full network in order to get him there, which is why I point out, if you've got that, your hardened net runners aren't going to be doing the work you think they are. You need to actually bring them up to like rank 6 or something.
And then execs, it depends on what kind of exec you're building. Maybe this is an exec that, like, yes, they're exec by name, but happen to be, you know, a spy for the company. You know, that maybe let's look at their stealth capabilities compared to, you know, maybe a social exec. The skill base is kind of one of those that I really look at, because sometimes you have like these low roll ability, high skill base edge runners that show up at your table from time to time.
Yeah. And so when we start talking about high level play, kind of the next thing I want to talk about is when you start planning missions, what are we doing? And how is that different?
Oh boy.
And this is where we might talk a little bit about beat charts. So beat charts are just the way you organize your thoughts. So first and foremost, those don't change. Like beat charts genuinely, they might get longer. I will say that, because the ops you're going to be doing as a high rank player are pretty much like, you are always going to be met usually with gigs that meet your skill level. No fixer worth their salt, if they know how capable you are, is going to put a rank 7 solo on a go fetch this for 500 eddies gig. That's just not going to happen, right? That solo is taking gigs that pay 1,000 minimum. They're probably taking gigs more often that pay them 2,000 for the gig. And they're doing them. They're not like going in and nearly dying. They're like going in, killing everything, and coming out of there plenty alive. So like that's kind of where we start talking about, okay, when you're doing that, what does the op look like? I personally have a great example from Neon Inferno that I will put forward on my end. And Diamond, I would encourage you to start thinking about like what's probably I would ask you, what's your most kind of proud high-end gig you've run? But so if you want to think about that while I give mine. Okay. So Neon Inferno Season 2, we weren't quite at the end yet, but the op is relatively complex. The object of it is pretty simple. Get in, deal with Mr. K, right? Get in there, deal with Mr. K, and, before he can do something heinous, right? So the party has to go into Club Atlantis before a night market where they know Mr. K is going to be, and they have to scout it. And they have to do a ton of info gathering. And so they start getting an idea of, okay, here's what the net defenses look like. Here is what, the social defenses are going to look like in terms of their, the door people. Here's the general layout of things. And in the end, because of that lead work they did, they ended up figuring out, hey, Danger Gal is the ones providing security. Do they know that he's also playing footsies with Arasaka under the table against maybe their wishes or knowledge? And when the party had convincing evidence to prove that, yes, this is what he was doing, they got Danger Gal on their side. Whereas I was planning on Danger Gal being an adversary of theirs. So before the gig has officially really begun, they've already prepped one part of it by removing one of the enemy forces off the table entirely and making them an ally. So this is where I start saying, you start playing in layers, right? You're like, okay, who are all of the opposition players in a gig like this? Where do they come in? What's their role? Can they be made into allies? Or are they, too self-interested against the players to play that game, right? And so once you kind of figure out where those layers sit, you figure out, okay, what's the pacing of the gig? How long do we have to allow the players time to like think and prep and do things ahead of time, whatever, right? For that gig, I gave my players 3 weeks because I figured, okay, this will give you plenty of pre-op time to like understand the lay of the land, to do what you need to do, buy the things you need to buy, all of that sort of stuff. So the players figure all that out. They've danger gal let them in, get security rolling. They realize Arasaka's on site, undercover. So they blow that wide open, and the night market turns into a firefight. And so they're already dealing with Arasaka guards on the lower levels and getting beat up. Next, they encounter 2 Arasaka FBCs that are there as basically spec ops, and they are working to try and extract Mr. K, along with Michiko Sanderson, from the night market. And like Michiko's been taken hostage in this situation because she was meeting with Mr. K when all of this flew off the rails. So the party has to now bust into his office. Like that's the next obstacle, is get to K through all these other obstacles that he's got in the way, these FBCs and everything. And one of my players just headshot him. And it was awesome. Once they cleared every other obstacle, they got in, they headshot him and threw him 3 stories down onto the pavement. And then they stole all his shit, and that kind of carried through the gig. But all of that is what the high level is about. It's not like, here's this like tiny street scuffle between booster gangs anymore. At the least, you're dealing with like, you're going in and you're going to fuck with the leader of this gang. Like, you're going in against their leader and dealing with them. At the highest level, though, it could be like what I just did, where it's like, you're going into the high level of like a corporation or like the equivalent of a corporate fixer and like dealing with them that way. So Diamond, I'd be curious, what is like your best example of a high level gig that you've run, and how did that kind of work?
So one of the better like this is one of the ones that I put like a lot of hours into planning, and it was for one of my paid groups. So the gig was Biotechnica had, gone out of their way. They had a project back in 2011 where they made a clone. Okay. So they tried to, the clone only lasted a few hours. Years upon years of science later, they produced, and one of the things they realized, maybe the clone needs to have a little bit more help with its neural functions in order for it to function properly. So what if we made an AI to go in there? So they got into bed with Ziggurat, and that's how Oddity was made. Oddity is, as put in the name, they are the first of their kind. Basically, Biotechnica made a replicant. I don't know how else to explain Oddity besides a replicant with a few extra steps, where Oddity does have some other just a few other steps. A little extra cyberware, a linear frame packed in there as well. A very subtle linear frame Sigma. So the job was, by a intelligence group who doesn't want Biotechnica keeping this, because, hey, if you're going to start making people, you're not going to be keeping people like zoo animals. So they pay the party, and the party has to go to a convention that's being held in Pacifica, where Oddity is going to get put up on display. Oddity gets, to clarify, Oddity is used as an exotic dancer to show off how human that they made this clone. So they prepare to do a heist. So I was thinking, okay, these guys are gonna, tech their way in there. No. They're like, okay, so question, what do the maintenance personnel look like? It's like, well, they're wearing high-vis vests and, hard hats and all that. And the fixer's like, how hard would it be for me to find these kinds of things? I'm like, oh boy, you're doing social engineering, aren't we? Okay. So the fixer decides instead to, look up the exact brand that these uniforms are. And source all the things needed, and they rely on a contact at Toriel and Chang to do all the detailing to make it look right for this job, with a favor that they called in. And so it's like, okay, all right, but they don't. There's no way they're gonna get past all the electronic parts. We just happen to get the rules to hack agents. So the Netrunner,
so good.
the Netrunner, who is a former KGB spy, she's just like, hold on, I got this. I'm going to follow these people because these guys got to go drink somewhere at the end of the day. And it's like, oh, you know what? That'd be reasonable. She's literally sitting there at the bar, and I'm like, she's got to fuck up one of these acts. She's gotta. No, she gets 5 IDs, clean, ready to go, because it doesn't even have like, it's not even photo ID. It's an employee number.
Yeah, that's
and
just
RFID tags.
That's hilarious because that's literally just like
goes to fake them.
I think of Pirate Software where he's like, yeah, now I know which bar to walk into and scan everyone's ID, and now I'm you. Like, holy shit. That's
I'm pretty sure actually Thor made that video right around the time when this gig's going on.
It was so good. That's perfect.
Oh yeah, like as someone that enjoys seeing a good social engineering experiment go off, it's good. So then I'm like, okay, but I'm thinking, like, what about the guards? So I set it up with security officers. Like really like hardened security operatives and security officers, because like this, like there is a lot of expensive stuff here, including a tech upgraded Balorianar. Like Aaron Balor came presenting a new weapon that was basically an even beefier Balorian Arms 3516 M1 is what it's called. And that thing, it was an excellent quality Malorian Arms 3516 with a smart gun link, and also on top of that, it just had a built-in targeting scope to use smart ammunition for funsies. Basically, Aaron was working on the smart rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, so he just smart rebuilt his Malorian Arms. That's crazy.
Yep. So, they ended up stealing that, and I'm just like, okay, but like, there's no way, like, I'm thinking about it. The Netrunner was just like, okay, but like, can I go in to also maybe check out the net architecture? We got a couple days. I'm like, sure, okay. I'm like, this is where I'll get her. So she pulls a Nyla. It just brain burns all the way fuck down through this 15-level net architecture that runs the entire convention center.
Yeah,
and gives herself sysadmin.
God, they played you for a heist, man. Holy shit. That's
like these guys did, like they were taking time to do all the prep work, and I was like, you know what? They're not sitting around and stewing. I'll let this prep work go on. So the Nomad. It's just like, okay, but like, what kind of transport vehicles might they have? And they're like, well, it's like Biotechnica is driving, what is going to be transporting her, and what, like, you've seen what the Biotechnica, like, live animal vehicles look like. It's like, what are the odds that my family might happen to have one, since we do have animals?
Oh, that's a great argument. Holy shit.
So I'm just like, okay, what's your luck score? It's like, yeah, it's not that great. And I roll, and for me, it's like, yeah, roll below the luck score.
Roll under, yeah.
And I roll 1. It's like, you know what, Patches? Your family just happens to have one. So
that's crazy.
They get some Biotechnica gonk who really isn't interested in doing this job because he's a little weirded out by the skin job. To like, hey, can we just get the uniform and we'll just go on our way? Like, yeah, sure, for this much money. They pass the bribe. These guys show up during the middle of the convention, like literally the evening, just before like Oddity is supposed to be put on for a performance, which we all know Biotechnica is probably just going to be there to rake in the money on, the exotic performances and whatnot.
It's a homunculi. It doesn't have human rights. It's not a human.
So they go in, they get Oddity out. They snatched the Malorian Arms 3516 M1, and also on top of all that, for funsies, they also took a Rockland, like a new Rockland arm that comes with 5 slots default. That sells for no less than 5,000 eddies.
Oh my god. Yeah, Rockland prototype would sell for quite a lot if they could get a buyer. That's crazy. Holy shit.
Their fixer was high enough rank. It was like... Yeah. The fixer actually put enough points into it. This is where fixers being high level can be nuts.
Yep. High rank
fixers. They were able to get rid of all of it.
That's crazy, though.
Well, actually, no. The Netrunner kept the fucking Malorian Arms because it just had no tracking capability on it.
I mean, yeah, I would. Like, I just debug it, delouse it, and then you're like, okay, cool, watch this shit. I've got a prototype gun that no one else has.
So they get Oddity out, and it's just like, that's great. Okay, you did the job. For now. And then suddenly there is a Cyber Psycho in Pacifica that was left in the care of the Princesses of Justice. That decided that, Oddity decided they wanted to go outside and go see what the world was like. To understand, Oddity has no real world experience. They've been only fed shit from Biotechnica of like what the world was like before the fall. They think the world's fine. They have it made them have a very positive outlook. Oh, no. Oddity, even though Oddity technically isn't human, I gave Oddity an empathy score because Oddity was programmed to have empathy.
Right.
Oddity, like I decided to see, okay, what happens in Pacifica, and Oddity witnessed like just witnessed like gangers just fucking killing a cop, like just for funsies, like just right out of Pacifica, because why not? It was they could get one by, and it sent Oddity flying over the edge.
Oh no.
Upon seeing just how bad people can get, because these gangers decided to go after Oddity. Oddity has body 12, and one of the other parties who was following up on all this before all else found that all these gangers choked out with big bruise marks around their neck. So it turned from a heist into a Cyber Psycho hunt.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
They did capture Oddity, who was turned over to Danger Gal afterwards, because Danger Gal was looking into it, and because death of a client. And yeah, Oddity killed some people. So it left the players wonder, the choice was left to the players: do we fight Danger Gal? Or do we take Oddity with us, full knowing we don't have any way to fix this? Or what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, and then this is the other thing about high level play, especially if you're ending a campaign, is if the players walk into a sunset at the end of it, make sure that they have some questions on their mind about what they did and was it the right thing to do. Like, that's always like a great question to leave your players with, is like, did we make the right choice? Basically, if you can make your players have a moment where it's like, Hans, Visa baddies, if you can make them have that moment, it's gold. You will have no greater joy as a GM than watching your players ask themselves that question. And you just get to look there and just, oh no, are you? Like, it's great. It's so good. So yeah, aim for that too. I would say if you can add moral quandary to the end of any gig, especially the high level ones, it'll increase the stakes for your players, especially if those things have connections to their life paths and things like that. Like if it plays up against their stated ethics, right? Like if they have stated to this point, if they have followed like a golden set of ethical, behavior and things like that. And at the other end of things, they're like, man, I don't know if I can maintain this level of ethics anymore, because like, if I do, I die here, or I risk much higher chance of death. And then they have to grapple with the ultimate question edge runners should always have to deal with, which is more important, my life or my morals and ethics? It's like, do I die a hero or live to see myself become the villain? Cyberpunk's full of that, and like,
oh yeah,
don't waste the opportunity to do that to your players. Make them question everything.
One of the questions that that my party had to kind of sit and wrestle with is just like, how much are they willing to do for a construct? Is this really a person? Like, because like, she was just walking around with a microbomb kill chip and had to get that shit pulled out.
Now, as we all know on Wireheads, machines aren't people. They cannot feel.
Machines aren't people. They cannot feel. They do not know love. They do not understand things like higher power.
Or emotions. And the turmoil that comes with it. Not at all.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. It's if you can look, all I'm saying is that there's a reason why in 2077 one of the most like wildly successful fan favorite gigs that game has on offer is the Brendan quest line. Like
Brendan.
Because you have to ask yourself the same question: is Brendan sentient or sapient? Like, can he think and feel? Or is it a really convincing facsimile of those things? Like, you have to grapple with that throughout that whole quest line. It's so good. It's so cyberpunk because it's not like it's hard. Like, those quests are incredibly easy. Most of them are you just walk up to him and talk. But, like, the whole while, you're like, he has enough, at least, theoretically, he has enough sapience to, like, fool average people into, like, wow, Brendan's such a great listener. Thanks for taking the time. And he would respond with something like, look, you don't deserve that treatment. That guy's an asshole. Talking to, like, the girl in front of you. And it's like, bro, is that a machine? Like, I don't know. Like,
or is this just, the AI inside, telling you what you want to hear?
Right, exactly. Because then it's like, there's a very big question there. So in high level play, I'd like to say that there's like, you can have that at all levels of play, but at high level play, the moral and ethical questions and the highbrow sort of philosophical implications of what your players are doing should take some degree of forefront, because it is like, it's a massively important element in the game.
I proposed this to the party in Control-Alt-Delete as well. It's just like, look, you guys know about this. You can save yourself and whoever you care about. Leave the combat zone. Leave the place that you call home, and just let it go to shit. Just let it go away. And it's not your problem anymore. Or, and a lot of people, some people are going to die there, but more people are going to move in, and the city's going to move on a little bit better. Society's going to get better. Or you save this rotting, dangerous hellhole that is the old combat zone, where some people live and live shitty lives, and you're choosing to go down there and stop whatever's about to blow the old combat zone into the bay.
Yep.
That is, a choice I proposed. And also, just the other one of just like, Militech and Ziggurat produced this AI to help try to bring the city back up onto its feet. Let the AI do its thing. or get in its way. That's your call.
I mean, that one was a very easy question to answer because it's like, do I want war games in the hands of Militech and Ziggurat? No, I don't want a war games style AI in their hands at all. As a matter of fact,
a nice little payout to just turn a blind eye and go away.
But I could be a god and kill it instead and subsume it. That's the better way to go. Why settle for mortality when you could be a god as payment for dealing with this little pest of theirs?
And one of the other things with high level play, there always had like combat. And I know that this kind of is like me leaning into like my experience with Blade Runner as well. Combat, unless you have the upper hand, it's going to be a soft fail state.
Yes. Yeah.
There is, because of just how lethal combat should be getting at that rank, where these guys should, like, you have Solo with evasion, with stupid high evasion numbers. It's all fun and games till they roll one bad evasion check and it just so happened that the sniper lands the headshot. That's all it takes. You're going to be dealing with people that you're going to be dealing with, other Edge Runner crews that might have one foot ahead of you. I mean, right now, Black Spark is, they're not quite out of the mid, they're not quite, they're somewhere in the mid game. But they're already starting to experience what it's like when dealing with another Edge Runner crew right now. I mean, they're dealing with it right now, like as their boss fight, alongside dealing with corporate, basically some of Arasaka's like ground troops that are right now working in the city. Now, surprisingly, the ground troops, even though they're wearing heavy armor jack, I mean, they kind of disappointed with how they're performing. Kind of disappointed with it. A little bit of a bummer. Oh well.
This is why. So here's another pro tip for high level play that I would like to throw out there. Once your players are a high enough level, and I mean like they're stomping hardened mooks that you throw in front of them in like 2 rounds, right? If they're doing that, my proposition to all of you GMs out there, see how they fare when you 1-to-1 hardened lieutenants against them. And if
that's what I did.
Right. And then if they continue doing that, 1-to-1 hardened mini bosses against them. And that's what I did at the end of Neon Inferno Season 2. All the Militech soldiers they were fighting in there, all of them were hardened mini bosses. And they came out of that pretty okay. Like, I even gave them pretty fair odds. I gave them pretty much like 2-to-1 odds on that. And it's like, they still getting fucked up. Like, they were getting beat up badly. So like, just a thought, like, don't be afraid once you hit that really high level of play. Like, your Solo has evasion 18 and a base 18 and like whatever weapon skill of choice that they're using. They've got that, or even close to that, like base 16 weapon skill, base 18 evasion, or vice versa. Do not be afraid to 1v1 them with a hardened mini boss. They will hold up. I promise you they will hold up. Like, unless they roll really shit and the other guy rolls really high, they will live.
It's all fun and games until the martial artist gets broken out. Yeah. Oh, we learned that the hard way.
See, and I didn't 1v1 you guys with him.
No.
Yeah.
Still, Peaches fucking handed all 3 of us our asses on a platter.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
One hardened mini boss and a lieutenant later.
Oh, Lowball was lieutenant?
Lowball's lieutenant because his stats were based on grease.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, what I have found though at high level play is that combat should not be a first choice. If you could somehow avoid the possibility of being shot at, like when I'm talking about it, it's like if you still gotta kill him, you gotta kill him. But if you're able to land the shot or get the assassination without having to go into initiative, you're already gonna be one step ahead. Is what way I see it.
Yeah,
like
you usually can't. You can't die from a misplaced word most of the time.
Yeah, and also, being able to, like, fixers. Hi, I am playing a fixer right now. Use your contacts. Holy shit, fixers, medias, use your fucking contacts.
Even rocker boys, to an extent, could apply to that advice. If you're a socially driven character, use your contacts, use your social skills. They're very useful. They're more powerful than you ever give them credit for. If you're coming from, like, combat heavy systems like D&D, use your social skills. They are so much more powerful than you think they are.
I had a rank 6 fixer look at me. It was just like, well, I don't know, how are we going to contact how are we going to contact Rex Royale? And I'm just like, could you look at your roll abilities again? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yep, you have contacts.
That's why. Literally, you using your contacts. Like, if you can avoid the dice, if you can avoid having to roll against the odds, you're going to be at least one step ahead.
I mean, even if you're rolling, if you're gonna roll dice, this would be my way to word that personally. If you're gonna roll dice, make sure you're rolling it for the right reasons, and that whatever you're trying is actually supporting the cause you're trying to, like, play for, right? If you're rolling dice and it doesn't further your aim somehow, then like why are you rolling those dice? What are you doing? Like, shooting everything in the room doesn't fix the problem if the problem isn't one that is like, if your problem isn't go assassinate this guy, right? Killing everyone in a room does nothing for you. Even then, getting deeper in before taking that first shot makes it so you're playing from an advantage. Because who knows, maybe they have a ton of guns out front because they want to protect the wall, right? Once you're inside the city walls, it's kind of like, that's where the meme would be like, holy shit, they're in the walls, they're in the walls! And that's where, if you're in the walls, there's nothing they can do to you, or the things they have the options to do to you are significantly lessened. You have leverage now. Like, you have hostages, potentially. It's a very different situation, even if the end goal is to kill someone.
I'd like to point out Hex today. Like, Hex literally had to talk down. So my character Skimmer, for anyone who may not have been caught up, just ate it here a couple weeks ago, or last week. Died. And Skimmer had a very, very near and dear friend that she took care of as basically a little sister, trying her best to at least try to make life a little bit better for the both of them. And apparently, said little sister is at like 1 empathy due to excessive drug use and the lifestyle that she lives, which is kind of strange because Skimmer was fine at like 5 empathy for some reason, though they both grew up in the gang. Anyway, probably just different choices made. But then
I was like, Skimmer was not as habitual a drug user as Minty was.
No, she was a drinker.
Yeah.
So from what was implicated, Minty was gonna, after being delivered the news, Minty was going to possibly just go in, I don't know what's a good way to put it. Take a little trip off the mortal coil.
Yeah, do the mortal coil shuffle, as I like to say.
Yeah, and so they the party handed over, handed Minty Skimmer's armored laser light jacket because even after death, Skimmer's still protecting Minty. But like, you know, like they noticed that you know, Minty had looked at, you know, the this very heavy pistol that Skimmer gifted her so long ago, and the med tech moved aside the vodka that Minty was drinking, just looked at it, and it's just like, would Skimmer want you to do that? And like, that is some of the shit at high level play on the social side that I look for, where your words have such an impact on people, not even just by the dice, but by the experience that you have, the rep you have. Because holy shit, high reputation does something for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, I mean, you know, where would you mark, like, for high level play, like, reputation?
I mean, reputation doesn't come into the calculation for me, because here's my thing. So, potentially controversial take. Your reputation is not a measure of how successful you've been. It is how large of a target is painted on your back.
I like that. I like that.
Because there's a great example of what I mean by this when you look at Vanisher in Danger Galdacier. He is an extremely, or they, I guess, because we don't actually know their gender, right?
Nobody knows.
They are an incredibly accomplished solo, right? Like, the ghost stories about Vanisher are numerous, right? But no one can prove who Vanisher is, what they, like, you know, they don't know who they are, they don't know where they live, they don't know where they came from, they know nothing about them. Their reputation is effectively nil, right? But they are still really fucking powerful, and that is because they manage their reputation. Because they don't want to be noticed as the first thing when they walk in a club. As a matter of fact, that's the last thing that they want. So that's like, your reputation is a double-edged sword. It's great to be known. If you're a megalomaniac and you want to be recognized, like you're a rocker or something, and that's your whole end game, sure, like maybe that is what you want. But not everyone should aim to have the highest rep on the map. Some rep is not good, right? Like, some reputation gain, like if you are a rep 9 guy, but you're known for being like a serial killer, basically, when it comes to your ability to put bodies up on the pavement, then like there's gonna be a lot of grieving widows and children that want your head on a spike. Like,
well, I mean, like, that kind of reminds me of, like, Hitman, Agent 47. Nobody recognizes this guy. And I'm thinking about it. It's just like, you know, like and actually that's something I was going to mention here is, like, you know, my previous fixer, Skimmer, wanted to be feared and respected. So, you know, she was chasing that reputation. She's chasing that clout. Evergreen, on the other hand, is just trying to, you know, take it easy, lay low, not get seen. So,
not ruffle any feathers.
Ruffle feathers in the right places, but, you know,
right, but to a very specific end. Like, she's not looking to like ruffle everyone's feathers. She's looking, if it gives her leverage, that's the game that she's playing more than for at least from my perspective.
Only known in the right circles. Like, so, you know, say she walks into Afterlife or walks into the Hope. People know, okay, yeah, this fixer means business. But it's not, hey, this person was involved with this major incident.
Yeah, that's more what Eagle is doing, because everywhere Eagle goes, whenever they do a mass casualty event, he's like,
Eagle,
all right, that's going up on Garden Patch.
Eagle needs a fucking brain dance recorder.
Yeah. Oh, bro. No, that's exactly what he needs. That's exactly what he needs. Oh, shit. Eagle, if you're watching this, get a BD rec. It's probably worth it, honestly. That's actually crazy. Holy shit, the XBDs you guys could sell with that. That's actually crazy.
Like, just, you know, imagine, you know, just an XBD of just shooting down ABs. Like, oh gosh, those would sell. Oh, those would sell.
Oh, those would sell. That's what, like, the Bushido movies wish that they could make. And it's just, here's your gold mine right here.
Yeah, and with that, holy moly. Sorry, but like, yeah, high level play is very much not just how high you can roll on the dice at this point, but it's also who you're going to be dealing with, what kind of things you're going to be known for at this point. Because, like, you know, being a rank 4, as I could quote Emmerron here, if you're a rank 4, 0 rep edge runner, you're not going to have a name to drink at the afterlife.
Nope.
You are going to be Bloodstain. You're going to be mixed in with Bloodstains number 5 and 6 down, you know, this shitty alley in the combat zone.
I mean, you're a little better than that. I've always said this. Rank 4, you're kind of you're hitting a middle ground. You're no longer the shitty Bloodstain in the middle of an alleyway, but you're definitely not an afterlife edge runner yet. Like, you are in that comfortably, like, it's kind of where we meet up with V and Jackie at the start of 2077. You're knocking over a Scav Haunt, like 2 men against a Scav Haunt, right? Is like, that's pretty impressive. 2 people against effectively a small gang is like, that's not bad, right? But like, the reason you're there is because it's another gig, right? It's nothing impressive. You're just rescuing some corpo that got taken and like pulling them out of there before they die. And so it's like, the gig itself is not particularly crazy. But once you get through that and you start getting looked at for like, okay, here's the actual first thing that you're going to do that's going to put your name on a chart. That's the start of a campaign. Is the first gig you do that really starts putting your name out there as like, I am someone to be reckoned with. Understand who I am. And that's where you find yourself at rank 4, is that leaping point when you are about to hit something pushing against the major leagues, which is, and then it just goes up from there. That's why I've always said, like, street level campaigns are possible, but once you hit a certain point where your rank is like, it's above anyone that's inherently street level, you're probably not fucking with as much street level stuff, at least not unless there's like major players on the table, like high level fixers, gang leaders, things like that.
Yeah, you're probably dealing with, you know, the likes of like Shinobi the Second,
right?
Or Warlock, like,
and that's high level play. Whenever you hit that point, that's high level play. If those are the people that you're regularly associating with, dealing with, or being challenged by, that is high level play pretty much. And that's where like you as the GM need to figure out, okay, how complex is the problem I want to present my players? How many layers is it going to be? That's where I like almost recommend looking at like Blade Runner, or even like Hope Reborn does a pretty good job of like illustrating 6 missions and like, this is how complicated things can get without leaving the street level. But I would say, like, if Hope Reborn was to get another gig in there, it would probably inflate the complexity of things to a much greater degree than it already is. It would probably get to being more like corporations and stuff.
Well, and like, you could still deal with corporations on a street level, though.
Yeah, but you're dealing more with like the direct effect it has on the street.
Oh yeah.
Instead of attacking the corporation directly or dealing with them in this like higher level way where you're like, now like, okay, step the fuck out of my neighborhood. Because at that point, once you hit high level play, you actually have the muscle behind your name and the contacts and the equipment to make that threat and have it be taken seriously.
Well, I suppose with that in mind, actually, I'm going to put that as a question up for Q&A.
Okay.
I'm going to save that. Execs. All right. Where do Neocorp execs fall into street level campaign. Speaking of which, do we have anything else for high level play? Because I think we've kind of defined like really where we're going with this. So I suppose as a quick wrap up, like what like if we had to put what we discussed in a nutshell, what are you thinking?
So if I were to express it as a nutshell kind of comment, I would say when your players start feeling like they're running over your low level stuff, when the simple random street stories-esque gigs no longer feel like they are scratching the itch, turn up the heat, and once the heat's kind of bubbling at maximum, then you're probably at high level play, and you should probably be looking for a thing to wrap up the campaign and make that really sparkle and shine, or at the very least two, you should be throwing your players some really hard fastballs and like say, okay, here are the consequences for the actions you've taken. I hope that you yield positive results. And that's high level play in a nutshell. So hopefully some of what we talked about have given you some things to think about. As always, both on Spotify and on YouTube, as well chat if you have questions about this. We do have our Q&A segment now. And of course, we can always talk about this on Q&A segments in the future. So if you do have questions or feel like we didn't cover an aspect of this particularly in-depth enough, or maybe didn't give enough detail on something, feel free to put the question below in the comment section on YouTube, the comments on Spotify. We would be very happy to, answer questions about this in the future when you watch that. But yeah, with that said, let's do some Q&A. So chat,
right.
If you have questions, throw them at us now, like tomatoes, except not offensively, please. But yes, what was your question that you wanted to sort into Q&A?
We'll kick off with that one. I also had a couple come into my DMs as well, but I like kind of coming off the back end of what we were talking about here. Neocorp execs, like the executives that are not part of the small corporations, like Uncle Larry. How do we mix Zarafa, Continental Brands, Petrochem, the big guys? When we bring execs into a street level group, how do we still keep like the executives' environment relevant to that campaign? Because they come from a very different world.
So the executive environment. So like, are we talking about
the office drama, the hostilities,
And you're talking about this like if you have an exec in your party and you want to keep that like high level play and extend that kind of element of it. So yeah, I mean, I think you did a really good job of this when we were running through Control-Alt-Delete with my character, because like I think when you're a rank 4 exec, it's important to remember you're probably like middle management, right? So the kinds of problems where your corporation's concerned that you're dealing with are very like, hey, we're not producing enough, or hey, we're not making enough sales. Hey, we need you to hit the fucking, we need you to put, shoes to pavement and go out, knock some doors up and collect, right? You got a protection racket your way to some profits or something. Which is kind of the position I put my exec in, was like, okay, I'm going to work for an arms corporation. They're going to sell to rougher neighborhoods. That's why they need someone like me out on the streets, because who else is going to collect on debts when people stop paying, So me and my driver would kick in the door and be like, all right, assholes, it's time to pay up. And if you don't, I just need to let you know your lives are worth about an eddy apiece here. So it's like, with that in mind, it's very, it's very like, you start off with that kind of element, but there's a lot of room for that to like evolve into something, especially if you've done something behind the corp's back, or maybe you don't take care of your employee and your employee starts getting a little like, well, I could probably get a better deal if I just fuck this guy over. They start wondering, well, that looks like maybe if I just tattled on him for that one time he went off protocol, suddenly your higher ups start coming down on you, because they're like, well, what are you spending our resources on? What are you spending your time on? What are we paying you for? We give you this nice apartment, maybe medical coverage. We give you your employees, and this is how you use them. You fill them full of bullet holes, and then we have to pick up the medical cost. Like, or maybe, like it was the case for me. You've done something in what you thought was in service to your corporation, and you were a good little loyal corpo rat. And lo and behold, they take the prototype weapon that you gave them so willingly for R&D, and they hold it against you. And all of a sudden, they, are like, we're going to get killed by Militech. I'm like, yeah, well, with that attitude, you're right, we will. Or you could get out of my way, let me run things here, and then we can all get rich together. That's our other choice. And inevitably that turns into office conflict and stuff like that. It's what are the big stakes implications of what you're doing out on the street as an edge runner as part of a corporation? Because that's where the rabid dog that produces can come back to bite you in the ass, because you're playing two lives almost. You got this really manicured professional executive life and the grungy, dirty edge runner life that the rest of the party that aren't execs are living. And it turns into that like dog eat dog kind of world where like you have to reconcile which side of this are you on, right? Are you part of the corporatocracy or are you the street? Because there's not room for both dogs to be in the arena at the same time.
Trying to make this as clear here. All right, next one. How can I use high-level allies for the party without being the OPGMP? Ah, yes. Okay, so I saw this one. I've read many RPG horror stories where the GM introduces that one NPC that is just like, why are we here? Why not? I guess this NPC can just go.
Yeah, they can conquer the universe with what they've got.
Yeah.
And I've got some thoughts on this too after you're done, but
yeah, I am just. I'll finish putting that question in there here. Okay, so in the matter of this, I actually had some personal experience with this in a Pathfinder game where, GM gives this apparently dragon, like half dragon, like the dragon traits for when she leveled up, and she's kind of a bit of an ass, all right, but like character was made to be very powerful where we really couldn't do much against here. If you are going to introduce high level allies to the party, especially in a place like Cyberpunk, for example, I'm going to take, for example, one of the allies of our party in the Thursday group is Wood Chipper. Wood Chipper is a very powerful ally, more for the fact of like what kinds of things she can reach, and reach physically and figuratively.
She's a very big woman, to be fair. She can reach quite tall up on the shelf.
If you've never seen Wood Chipper before, there's a reason I really, really, really like Wood Chipper. But she's a rank 5 fixer and she's a rank 4 nomad. So she's got, but like also her skills are crazy good. But Wood Chipper would likely not go out into the field with your party. This is one of those things where you have to look at the ally in question, and it's just like, would this ally show up in the field with the party without good reason? Like, is it personal? Like in the case of Neon Inferno, the Puma Squad got involved with the Machiko Sanderson hostage situation because that's their boss.
Yeah, that's the boss. That's the corp. Like, she is the corporation, basically.
If she goes, we all go.
Yeah.
On top of that, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish your thought.
But if you were to, let's say you're introducing maybe a high level solo that might be showing up. Like in the case of a certain adventure, you meet John Doe, who happens to be a very avid Elflines Online player, who makes for a really good ally in combat.
Yeah. Not relevant to the scope of the adventure he's introduced in, by the way, for the ELO bit. We just like to mention it every time we get.
Yeah, because ELO is a beloved thing on here on the channel. John Doe is shows up because he has a personal interest in the adventure that he'll be willing to work with the party. Not all allies have to be super buddy with the party.
Yep.
It just might be you happen to have some good favor with them.
Yep. I look at GM NPCs. If you're going to throw an ally with the party that the GM explicitly controls, because there's kind of two philosophies to this. So philosophy one is if you're going to throw a NPC with the party that you, the GM, are going to control, that character by definition should, one, not be a panacea to the challenges presented in the gig. And what I mean by that is if your challenges in the gig are largely technical, you, the GM, should not be playing a tech, right? Or if you are, that tech should be well under what the party's level is. It should be they'll be rank 2 if the party's rank 4 and scale as appropriate. But they should never be on the same level as the edge runners if they are potentially by their role a panacea to the challenges in the gig. If they are not, they can be on equal footing with the players, but they should never be stealing player spotlights, ever.
I suppose an important exception to all this is the employees. The employees now with the advanced workstations, they can, become full-fledged characters, but the improved employees are going to need some time to grow.
I mean, yeah, even improved employees, they're going to be behind the players. Oh yeah, in every way. That's why I say if using those as your baseline, you actually are pretty much on point, right? If you wanted to roll up an ally, right? My recommendation would be look at the exec's roll ability and roll up a character as though they were a teamwork ally of an exec, and then give them rank 2 in a roll if it's appropriate, right? Like a solo rank 2 or something like that. And then that will probably be fine, even at rank 4 for your party, because that character, I promise you, is not stealing the spotlight from any players. That's where it becomes a problem. If your character that you're introducing is stealing the spotlight from your players and taking opportunities that otherwise they would have to have these great spotlight moments, you've made a mistake. That's where that starts leaving a sour taste in people's mouth. The other side of the coin, though, that I will say is that if you know the players are about to go into overwhelming odds, then it can be okay to give them that on-level panacea. Like in the case of Neon Inferno, what Don was just talking about, Nyla and Pantera were in the same network at the same time, and they were about the same level as each other when they went in there. I think Nyla might have been rank 7 by then, but I know Pantera's rank 6. So the two of them were going through the net run together, and Nyla still got all the spotlight, basically, because he outperformed Pantera in a lot of cases, because he was better prepared for the gig that they were about to do. And so that's what you should always keep in mind, though, is when you're equipping or building the character, if you're worried about that, ask yourself the following question. Is this character capable of stealing the spotlight from somebody in the party? And if they are, is that okay given the type of challenge that I'm about to present them? And if there is a chance of that, because this is the other philosophy, or if you want to give them an ally that is vastly overpowered compared to them, that is on the gig with them for some reason, give the player who will have the least to do with that gig the control of that character in combat. Because if you do that, the player doesn't feel like they are getting fucked, right? You might still, as the GM, like I did at the end of the campaign this last week, right? I started narrating what these other NPC characters are saying and thinking, but I'm not telling the players, this is what this NPC is going to do during this turn of combat. I said, what would you like this character to do, right? What decisions would you like them to take? And giving them all of the power there. Because that also makes it so that they aren't feeling like, wow, I guess I'm just going to sit here and twiddle my thumbs and do nothing while the GM just has all the fun. It's like you're still having the fun. You're just playing a character that's not your own. And that's okay. Because you still feel like you're having fun then. It's not like this horrible feeling of like the GM's stealing all the fun, you know?
Another thing is, if you know, let's say, oh gosh, if I had to look back on a gig, actually, one of the parties hired, you know, my character Diamond to, you know, run as, you know, their tech and Wirehead for a gig because they were going out to, you know, flush another Wirehead out of her hidey hole. So, you know, Dia was sent along, and, you know, Dia specializes specifically in, you know, hunting dwellers. But, you know, outside, you know, being in the net, dealing with all the other shit that was attacking the party, you know, she was just busy trying to break through the ice. So sometimes those other allies are going to have other objectives that they're trying to complete on your behalf. So,
well, the other thing I will mention as well is, like, because you made a great example with Wood Chipper earlier, like, you have this really powerful ally, but her primary function is a fixer, right? So she's going to be in the background. If you do give your players a high-powered ally, if they aren't in the thick of the action, right, they're kind of sidelined, that's a great place for them to be. They will never steal the spotlight from the sidelines, but they can serve as that connection to the upper crust or the upper layers of society, or access to some fancy toys when the players need it. That, if they play a supporting role, that is so good for the best, like, fixers in the city to be in that place for your players, if that's where you want to have those characters in the story, but you don't want them interfering. That's exactly where they should be. Keep them on the sideline. Or, like, there was an example earlier on in Neon Inferno Season 2 where the party was getting ready to attack this black site, and, you know, Nyla went to Recluse and was like, we need this dealt with. I want to hire you on and send you against this corporation. And she's like, my price is 2,000 eddies. Can you pay it? And he says, yeah, cool. So while the rest of the party is doing the main chunk of the gig, her whole thing, which is badass because she's doing it solo, but it's not in the main spotlight. So she's over here hacking this other company's network that is helping the party. But we don't even reckon with the fact that that's happened until after the gig is concluded, or until the moment in the gig where it becomes clear that she succeeded, right? And all of a sudden, I say, you hear this thing off in the background, and that is still you. The player who did that, Nyla in this case, has the agency, because they made the call to hire that person who did the thing, and they still won on that, right? The player still feels like they won because they are the reason that happened, right? So it's about how much agency does your player have? Are you giving them the right spotlight? That is the real question that you've got to keep kind of coming back to and answering, if that's kind of the thing you're considering doing to your players.
All right, next question. What spot is the earliest I can use boss characters? Well, my friend... Oh.
Hold on.
You can use them whenever.
Wait. Finish the sentence, though. I want to hear what their stipulation was on that.
What spot is the earliest that I can use boss characters? That's the question.
Oh, easy. Yeah, anytime you want. Anytime you want.
Anytime you want. Literally, my GM, we were running through Street Stories, and we were going cover to cover. Yeah.
The very first gig in that has a very serious boss, like on the level of a Cyber Psycho, easily. And so you literally can do that anytime. And it's really effective early, actually, to do that, because it's like, in my opinion, it introduces the story to the players. Because like, what was the gig that I did? I ran Break the Box for my for one of my early this year. I ran a Cyberpunk boot camp to teach new players the game and how it runs. And we ran Break the Box for one of the sessions, and they broke the box inside of like 3 rounds. And I'm like, that's cool. Very nice. Like, they dealt with all the adversaries or whatever. Like, it was more than 3 rounds probably, but bottom line, it was way quicker than I thought they would. And I was like, cool. Cause they're all just playing the pre-gens out of the single shot pack. So I'm like, they'll have like respectable capability, but they won't be like crazy powerful. So they end up getting into the box, or getting really close to getting into the box. And I'm like, yeah, you guys succeeded at like taking out all the problems. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah. And then you see lumbering out of a nearby alleyway as the glue solvent is getting applied by this old man. You see this lumbering fucking metal monstrosity, and it just flatlines one of the gangers that's standing by the sidelines. Suddenly panic breaks out. Everybody roll initiative. You are attacked by a Cyber Psycho. And like, this is like no prep, no IP. We just are running Break the Box, and I had a Cyber Psycho at the end of it. And it was incredibly effective. Super cool stuff.
And, you know, I'd like to just mention in there, I won't tell you, like, we all know, like, word is out that Adam Smasher is in the CEMK. I won't tell you how or where they come into play.
I've mentioned it about 5 times this episode alone.
It's a starter adventure.
Yep.
You are a bunch of starting characters, and there's a possibility you might deal with the Smasher.
You will not kill him.
Like, yeah, I got away with 1 hit point. I left with nothing, but you know, a few eddies and just fuck.
You know, it's really funny. I put Gatspot against Adam 1-on-1 last night just to see what would happen. I said, you want to try something fun? He's like, yeah, sure. Because we'd just gone through like a net running simulation and then like a combat simulation. Like, do you want to try something really fun? I'm like, he's like, yeah, let's do it. Put Adam down. Adam Smasher looks at you. Hello, meat. And it's just like, yeah, this is going to go great. He survived for 2 full rounds against him before Adam got him on the 3rd. By blowing his leg off and then a hole in his body.
But also, whoever donated to the PAX Fund, thank you so much. I appreciate all the help I can get. I appreciate it. So, yeah, boss characters. I would say, you know, give your party, you know, a little time to get used to the game, and then drop boss character.
But you could put them in as early as the end of the first adventure you put them on. Like, what I would suggest, because this is always what I think is like the quintessential, like if you wanted to create or have a good template for like what a good cyberpunk adventure at the first session is, look at Red Chrome Cargo, but consider at the end keep everything the same, except add a Cyber Psycho at the front of the train. Like, he's the guy running the front of the train. Put that against your players and just do that. And the gig gets to be way more exciting. And it's just, and it's already really fun. Like Red Chrome Cargo, I will never stop talking good things about it because I think it is really a great low-level cyberpunk adventure. Add a Cyber Psycho at the very end. Just like place that in there, and like it's a fun time. Like honestly, your players are gonna feel like when they walk out of that, if they win, They should be like, yeah, we fucking did it. It's going to be the best like little celebration that your players will have. It's awesome.
All right. On that note, last question, and this one's it took me getting some clarification. GM does not want to be noted because they don't want word to get out by chance if their other players are listening. Mm-hmm. My party's rocker boy is dating an enemy of my party's solo. The enemy caused the solo major humiliation. How can I use this conundrum? It was agreed on by the players in this case that this was the relationship.
Okay. Thing number one, do your best not to have the love interest in this case go too hard on the solo. Let that water boil slowly, right? Because it shouldn't like boil over right away. That's just not fun, right? No one likes that. It's going to lead to hurt feelings. There was a post I think John talked about on Reddit asking kind of a similar scenario to this. So I almost wondering if it's the same person, which would be really funny. But there was a Reddit post a couple weeks ago where there was like, there was a girlfriend who was a drug user and tried to steal from the solo in the party, and the solo shot her. And like it created this huge amount of bad blood in the party. And it's like, okay, like here's the thing. I know the book says steal from your players, like do bad things to them, don't give them don't let up kind of thing. There is a slow simmer to these kinds of things though. Like,
oh yeah.
If you've got an NPC like that who's an enemy, that should be like a mid-game conundrum, in my opinion, right? That's where it should come to a head. Because like have the girlfriend maybe do little subversive things here and there, like inform the rocker boy like, hey, have you ever talked to that solo friend of yours that you always seem to run with? Like if she knows about their relationship, and if not, maybe halfway through when she does figure it out eventually, she delivers an ultimatum like, look, it's him or me, right? You either want to keep running with him, I'm fucking out of here, okay? And I'm going to say fuck you on the way out. I'm going to burn down your cargo container, like have it be really explosive, right? Like that's the kind of ultimatum she's delivering. Because ultimately we know what the answer is probably going to be. That rocker's probably going to choose the solo because ain't no one going to stay with that level of crazy in the middle of a cooperative RPG. I think that's fun.
Maybe in the matter of the solo, maybe it's just, during downtime, maybe there's just that passing glance of like, you saw your rocker boy seems a little busy, but then you think you saw, insert this character as well with the rocker boy.
Right.
You're not sure.
Yeah.
And, maybe they, some weird posts on the garden that just kind of seem a little too convenient.
Right.
And you kind of tie all that together, and it kind of comes to a point of just like, it's like, it's, all it takes is one good backstab.
Yeah.
You literally have like all the leverage you need to turn cause a backstab to happen.
Yeah, play it like a corpo game almost with that. Because here's the other angle. Since it's a rocker boy that's in the relationship, okay, this is where it's like, consider that the rocker probably trusts the girl, right? Like, say they slept together and the rocker had his agent, right? And he's asleep and doesn't notice the girl like take the agent, scan his face to unlock it, and then starts going through his like garden posts and starts like posting shit about the solo as him, riles up his fan base, and then sicks the fan base on the solo by proxy. And the rocker wakes up the next day. The solo's pissed off. His fans are all up in a like uproar about this, and he has no idea what the fuck has happened overnight. Like, that's another angle you could play. But again, I would let that simmer until the mid game. Like, you know, maybe drop little hints like maybe she's tooling around in his phone every now and then or whatever. And like, it doesn't even need to be noticed, but like test it every now and then. Like say, hey, Rocker, roll a perception check. Because maybe she snuck it out of his bag or out of his pocket or something. Like, just a thought.
Oh, yeah. This looks like a really good way, and depending on like major humiliation, maybe this is just a rival solo as well.
Could be. Oh, that's a fun one. Yeah, if it's a rival solo, then that's really that's really fun. Yeah. Bottom line is there's all kinds of angles that could be taken here, because it's also a corp could maybe be involved, right? You know, maybe one of the girlfriend's close friends is some corp working for Ziggurat or something. Or if there's like a corporation the party has been dealing with unfavorably, make that friend belong to that corp and like really fuel the drama. Because now it's like, okay, well, the girlfriend's being fed a line and the girlfriend is like, you know, gonna act on it. And the corp is really the one manipulating it. So that's the real play, the multi-layered like social engineering game. That's what that sounds like to me. Yeah.
But I think we're good. I don't have any other questions on my end.
Hell yeah. Yeah, neither do I. But if you do have questions for us, like I said, we do have an email address, wireheadspod@googlegroups.com. Please feel free to send your questions there. Or put them in our comments, both here on YouTube as well as on Spotify. We are more than happy to get those questions, answer them, regardless of how related they are to the topics we discuss on any given week. We like to answer questions. We both like teaching new people the game and giving our perspective. So, but yeah, with that said, guys, again, if you didn't watch Diamond's half of the episode, if you are watching this on YouTube, the link should be down in the description below this so that you can catch up on what we discussed about bosses in the first half of the episode this week. But as always, I'm Emmerron.
I'm Diamond Dust.
And we hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon wherever you're on the world. Stay healthy, stay safe, and until we talk again, guys, peace. We are out.
Bye.